Good evening to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook for October 5th, Sunday, 2025. Hope you had a great Sunday and a great holy day, and a great Sunday regardless, even if you don't believe necessarily in any sort of religion or holy day. But today, this evening, we're going to be talking about the chances that are increasing for potential tropical development in the Atlantic for what has now been designated Invest 95L. I'm going to break down the latest models and also how things are looking right now with the system, as well as obviously going over activity elsewhere in the tropics, including the Pacific, but we're really going to go over that only briefly, as we're mainly going to be focusing on 95L throughout today's video. But hope you enjoy. And let's get started, obviously, with the National Hurricane Center homepage. The latest on Invest 95L right now in the tropical Atlantic. A broad area of low pressure associated with a low latitude tropical wave continues to produce a large area of disorganized cloudiness and showers several hundred miles southwest of the Cabo Verde Islands. Environmental conditions appear conducive for additional development of the system, and a tropical depression is likely to form by midweek as it moves quickly across the central tropical Atlantic, approaching the Leeward Islands by the latter part of this week, and interest there should monitor the progress of this system. And as I've said before, the Northern Caribbean islands here are in the potential line of fire for whatever does happen, and the exact track is uncertain right now, but first of all, we have seen shifts in the models today, including certain models seeing some southerly shifts, which is putting the Northern Caribbean at a more direct threat. And besides that, the development cone here by the National Hurricane Center includes parts of the Northern Caribbean islands anyways. So either way, if you are in the Northern Caribbean, including the U.S. British Virgin Islands, including even places like Puerto Rico, you're going to have to watch out and keep a very close eye on 95L very closely here, because this will more than likely be our next system, and this is generally moving in the direction of the Western MDR and the Northern Caribbean, and at least based on model trends today, this has a pretty decent chance of becoming a pretty decent and strong system here in the MDR by next week. Of course, though, I'll be showing you what the models show in just a little bit. In the Eastern Pacific, though, there is quite a bit of activity right now happening, including two hurricanes active at once. We have Hurricane Octave, or Octave, not sure. It's one of those storms that sometimes you kind of can pronounce it in multiple different ways, like octave, like, in music when when you're talking about a music song that has an octave or something like that, or, if you want to add a little bit of a flavor, you could say octave, like I've been saying, but you generally get what I'm talking about. Hurricane Octave here in the Eastern Pacific, maximum sustained winds at 80 miles per hour and a minimum central pressure of 987 millibars. And I'm kind of surprised that this actually became a hurricane. I said for the last several days that it wouldn't become a hurricane, yet here we are. And then we have Hurricane Priscilla, and this is likely going to intensify further, probably becoming at least a Category 2. Maybe we'll even see a Category 3 out of this. Not entirely sure, but I'm definitely sure that this will at least become a Category 2. And right now, its intensity is 75 miles per hour with a pressure of 986 millibars. And I'm going to go over more in depth of what's happening in the Eastern Pacific tomorrow, but I do want to, and also the implications that especially Priscilla might have on the southwestern United States. But I do want to mention that there are tropical storm watches in effect for portions of the coastline of Mexico. And once again, this will not make a direct landfall on Mexico, but it looks like we will see some impacts to the coast here in terms of maybe some gusty winds and some heavy rain, which is why the tropical storm watch here is probably in effect, but won't be more than that. But if you are in the southwestern coastline of Mexico here, or in the area along within the tropical storm watch zone, please keep in mind of weather conditions over the next several days. And obviously the biggest threat to the Mexican coastline, besides maybe some gusty winds, will be heavy rainfall, which obviously is not a threat to diminish in and of itself. But again, the main focus being in the Atlantic. I will go over more in depth of the Eastern Pacific tomorrow, but want to make this update as quick as possible and just focus in on the Atlantic right now with 95L. And with that, here's a satellite imagery shot of 95L in the MDR right now, obviously with the sun setting. So now we are entering nighttime mode here in the RGB color of the satellite, or at least the GOES 19 RGB false color loop. And you could see 95L actually looks quite decent. You could definitely see, if you look closely here, the makings of some sort of low-level circulation. Obviously, probably not closed right now, and it's still a broad system, and obviously, not super organized in terms of convective activity, but the overall structure is there. And especially if you've been tracking the tropics for a while, you probably know what I mean. This generally has some energy with it. And in fact, we could take a look at that further by looking at the 850 millibar relative vorticity, once again, from the University of Wisconsin. And if you've been following me for long enough, I like to use this site quite a bit. And as you can see here in the MDR here associated with 95L, there is a pretty decent vorticity signature in the atmosphere, meaning that there is spin, there is likely a turning of the low-level wind barbs, and there's definitely a circulation in the making. Obviously, it now comes down to how much more this can organize, and whenever the circulation will close and become a closed, well-defined, low-level vortex. And then obviously from there, we'll probably be able to designate it as a tropical system. But for now, still in the organizing stages right now. And then from here, it's obviously going to continue on into the Western Atlantic. Eventually, as this gets further west, it will begin to take a turn here to the northwest and then eventually to the north. But when that turn happens, will be very, very important, because you see here some of the models, and I'm going to break down the potential tracks by each model ensemble, or each ensemble version of each model, meaning the European and the GFS and even the Google AI model. I'll break down each model in just a little bit. But this is the model track guidance, and you do see there's quite a bit of spread right now, with some of the models taking this pretty much on a straight northwesterly track from where it is right now, right into the northern Caribbean islands, including even getting here towards Puerto Rico. And then obviously some other models here, and I could tell you for one, the AVNI, that's the GFS model, take this out to sea and steer this just north of the Caribbean islands. But regardless, I would still say honestly that this will probably be still close enough that we'll see impacts to some of the islands here. And obviously, you got to remember that even if a storm doesn't make a direct landfall on you, the wind field still exists. The wind field, a storm is not just one point on a map. It does have a large wind field, and even if you don't feel the eye wall of a storm, you can definitely feel the outer rain bands, and that could definitely bring impacts to you and be enough to ruin whatever plans, or even ruin your life in some cases without having to experience a direct landfall. So bottom line, the Northern Caribbean is going to have to watch 95L very closely, especially just by looking at this model guidance map alone. And this is definitely going to change quite a bit over the next several days. But it's not just that. Look at the model intensity guidance from the general models as a whole, and pretty much all of the models now make this a pretty intense storm, with virtually all of them making this at least a hurricane. And we even have quite a few models here, including the hurricane models, and obviously that's very significant because the hurricane models, are made specifically for hurricanes, and all of those models have 95L here strengthening and becoming a major hurricane. So that is pretty significant, and this roughly happens around hour 120, so around 5 to 6 days out. And really quickly going back to the model track guidance here, Where do most of the models generally have this occurring or located at hour 120? Just taking a look at the general spread, and it is right here, just around the Northern Caribbean. So the fact that this will be strengthening, and most, if not all, of the model intensity guidance agrees that this will be a hurricane by then. We might even be talking about a hurricane threat here for the Northern Caribbean as we head into next week. So we're going to have to watch all of this here very, very closely. Now, I do want to break it down by model just to give you an idea of what each model generally has an idea of, and also take a look at potential ideas that the models might be agreeing on. Starting off with the European ensembles, and they're seemingly split right now. The Euro generally kind of maybe weighted a little bit more towards the north, with most of the ensembles here going just north of the Caribbean islands, although there are a few more southerly ensembles here that are very strong, and they go directly over some of these northern Caribbean islands. In fact, one of these strong ensemble members get very close to Puerto Rico. So just by that already, I would say the Euro is a potential, definitely entertaining the idea of a potential threat to the Northern Caribbean. What about the GEFS? The GEFS pretty much along the same lines, and much further south too. So the European is a little bit weighted further north here, but they still show some strong ensembles heading into the Caribbean. But the GEFS ensembles, on the other hand, much further south, quite a few ensembles plowing into the Caribbean. In fact, the GEFS kind of has the entire Lesser Antilles and Caribbean islands here at risk. And you even see as well here some Northern Caribbean islands, some of these very strong ensemble members crossing through. So that is quite a significant thing indeed. And then you also see some development here that occurs in the Central and Western Caribbean. So we'll also have to watch that too. But European and GEFS both agreeing on both have ensemble members that agree on potentially some activity here, some strong activity out of 95L heading directly for the Northern Caribbean. And then finally, the Google AI, definitely more north weighted than all of the other models. Most of the ensembles here have this storm tracking out to sea, although once again, there are still a few ensembles on the southern periphery of the cone, where generally the model tracks are, that have direct landfalls occurring on the Caribbean islands here. But I would say that the Google AI is probably the most concentrated just to the north of the islands. In fact, I'd say probably even more than the Euro, but you still see quite a few strong ensembles here. And once again, they are very, very close to the Northern Caribbean islands. So in general, a summary of all three of the major models that I just showed you, the Euro, the GFS, and the AI, Google AI, all have ensembles which are pretty concerning, and definitely highlight an increasing threat, with a system here in the MDR that continues to have a chance, an increasing chance for tropical development. And it looks like this upcoming week will be a very long week for tracking. So you're going to want to stay tuned very closely here. And in order to do that, one of the best tools, I should say, that I really recommend you to is to subscribe to this YouTube channel. And it's not just a matter of self-promotion, but I do upload videos every single day, like I did today, and I will again tomorrow. So if you are interested in that, please go ahead, like this video, subscribe as well, and also share too if anybody is interested in what might be going on next week. I'm pretty sure a lot of people will be, and a lot of people will probably be tuning in to find out what might be potentially happening, especially if you are in the Northern Caribbean. So feel free to share this video as well for those who might be interested, especially if you found this video informative, which I hope you did. And of course, if you are subscribed, or if you are just subscribing, please make sure to turn on the notification bell so you can get videos the moment I upload them. But with that being said, I'm going to end it off. I'm going to wrap it up for tonight's video. Once again, I hope you enjoyed it. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay safe. And of course, as I've said, we're going to have a long week of tracking coming up. So I hope to see you throughout this upcoming week. Until then, have a good night.